Alice Staples. We have Alan Silly. We have Sarah Weinberg. And we have David Rule.
All right.
That makes a full board for the Ashland Library trustees, and it makes a quorum for the Scribner trustees with public invited with Alan Silly. So what the purpose of this meeting is to discuss the physical state of the Scribner building. Now, we as Scribner trustees, and dadgum, I forgot to do it. I had it on my mind and it lapsed, but I was going to find out what the current value is of the Scribner Trust. I'm going to guess it's somewhere around $87,000. The market hasn't done a whole lot since we met 2 weeks ago. So I think it's probably about the same. I was going to look that up. But at any rate, as the trust nears 40,500, so we really only have, I can get an exact amount if I take a moment to get in. But as we get in towards that 40,005, because we cannot spend the principal, we are having to figure out, the Scribner trustees are having to figure out, how do we, bleed out this trust, if you will, in a way that does not spike the Ashland tax bill? Because right now, I can get you an exact amount now. Let's see. It's up to 90,000. So there you go. Hold on to that number, because we're quickly going to be spending that money to maintain the building. Anyway, as we approach and the end of this trust, the end is in sight. It simply cannot maintain the building on what we need to do for it, and the annual maintenance expenses, which have historically been about $9,000 a year. We Scribners are, on the one hand, cutting what we are spending. Of course, cutting the stipends save $1,250, or 10% of it almost. And then we've cut an extraneous insurance policy, and then of course if we move the funds and we cut the expense ratios and advisory fees at Wells Fargo, that'll save another $1,000. So we'll cut our budget basically by about 30% before we've really done anything to affect things. But as this happens, we also need to look at the building itself and know its needs, and try to get, the idea behind this is to get a long-range plan, but the emphasis more on plan. I'm hoping something that's got about a 3-year time period on it, on how we're going to handle this. We've got a trust that can no longer support the maintenance of the building because we have to spend out of it. It's a dynamic amount of money going up and down with the market, and we're pulling money from it every year. We're not just leaving it alone to grow. As we do that, we Scribners are going to come up with a plan. And we want to present this plan to the Board of Selectmen, who own the building. The town owns the building, as well as you trustees. We want to be in complete communication. And as managers of the building, the Scribner trustees as managers of the building, we will lay the first card in the game. And that doesn't mean that that's going to be set in stone. It's a way to start the conversation, to get some kind of plan going on what will happen to the building. Because according to Emma's will, as I said earlier, the building is to be torn down and turned into a park when there's no longer the means to maintain it. And the last thing I think Ashland needs is another park. So we're going to try very hard to save the building. It's currently the home of the Ashland Library and has been forever and a day. So we're keeping that in mind as well. I think that the first thing I would like us to begin with is actually Tom Peters' resignation letter. I'm going to pull that up because he lists several things that we need to begin to address. And keep in mind tonight, I've been disabled from screen sharing. Who's the host? I thought I was the host.
I am the host. I don't know why.
Okay, that's okie dokie. You might have been the first one to dial in. So if you go to the screen share and just enable me, or however that works, it just for ease of discussion, if we could have that up on there.
No, that's what I'm trying.
If you go to participants, then you can make someone else the host.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. There you are, the host. So how do I get?
Well, it may be something that I have to change. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yep, you have,
Since you're the host, Marty.
Yeah, it would be,
Amanda can't change anything.
yeah.
but Mardine can make Amanda the host.
Or can allow her screen to be shared.
Okay.
Actually, everybody should be able to, oh, the host disabled screen sharing.
Let's
I
see.
don't-
How did that happen?
Clicked. Okay. I click on share screen.
Oh, I'm the host now. I reclaimed host. I'm the host now. There we go.
Okay.
So here
Okay.
we go. Okie dokie. Look at this. Okay. So here we go. Everyone should be able to see this now. And this is just by way of beginning discussion. I want to make it very clear with the library trustees that on the one hand, this is not an adversarial relationship that we are going into. We want to be very much into communication with you. You have perhaps some of the best insight into what the building needs. We did have a building inspector, the town building inspector went through it. I have not yet seen the report. I've been told that I would be able to see it. I haven't seen it yet, and so perhaps that needs to be released by the Board of Selectmen at their next meeting, but that's going to be another document that, of course, we Scribners are going to be considering as we make our proposals for how do we spend down the rest of the money that we have. The more we spend, the less we have, the less it grows, the quicker it depletes. Once it's gone, then it will be the tax bills that pay for the heat on the building and the tax bills that pay for things that need to be repaired and things. So we're trying to bleed it out slowly to keep the tax bills from spiking. So having said that, while please don't consider us the enemies, we're going to be looking at this perhaps from a slightly different perspective. Not everything on lists is going to be answered tonight. There will probably be a few things that we will say, we'll fix that. That's got to be fixed now. There'll be some things that I'm speaking from only myself that I'm going to look at and say, I'm not going to fix that. No, that's way beyond. We need to figure out what we're going to do with the building, period, before we put that kind of money into it. But I'm only one vote out of a total of 5 on Scribner. So just, we're looking at wish lists and how to organize it, and we're going to take what we hear tonight and go to our meetings and try to figure out what we want to present to the Board of Selectmen. So starting with, this is all the stuff that I can't sign on. Okay. The oil, as far as the oil tank goes, I do know that I heard that Tom and Rick were going to do something about the oil. Where they need to dig around the tube 3 feet and down to the tank about 4 feet. There was quite a bit of do-it-yourself, which on the one hand, I do appreciate for the cost savings. I will be the first to say that, if they had spent their stipends on the building, it wouldn't probably be in this condition. But I know that the oil tank needs some work, and that once we see the building inspector's report, that will help us know more of where that stands.
Can I just make
Yes.
a comment about the oil?
Yes.
Since for the most part, underground tanks have been a no-no for a long time, that if you start digging up and around it, you could open up a whole other can of worms about if it's leaking anywhere, and whether or not we would be forced to pull it out of the ground and put it elsewhere.
Right. I think that, again, we need to see what the building inspector wrote. I know that when you have things that are existing non-conforming, you kind of want them to just stay and exist and not touch. And I think that is something that we Scribners will consider when we see what the inspector.
Well, that depends on what the state. Some things are not grandfathered. If the state changes things, if DES change things, if life and safety change things, they are not ever grandfathered.
Right.
One thing you will have to check on, obviously, is the age of the tank.
Right.
That will be an important key piece of information. In addition to the status and the viability of it.
Right. So going forward, you know, as I said, let's all keep in mind, we've got an account that if it's at 90,000, I don't know what it's going to be tomorrow when the market closes. I said 87,000, so it's pretty close. So we're looking at approximately $50,000. So we have the money. We've got $50,000. And I think as we go over this list, we're going to see that 50,000 is going to be gone pretty quick. And that is not including paying the monthly phone bill or the heating oil or, expenses that, the building has. So while we have money, we don't have that much. And if we spend it all right now, we don't have any. And then what do? The town's going to have to pay for this. And then where do the town get the money? The town gets the money from the taxes. So I do know the roof does need to be done. We had talked about that in the Scribner meetings. We made a guess based on, I put a new roof on my home about 7 years ago. I put a metal roof, but I do know what an asphalt costs. And we all kind of figured it's probably going to be about $5,000. You can see this up by the attic door. I don't know how many have been in the library recently, or not even that recently, but you can see upstairs by the attic doors, definite water damage. In my opinion, that is something that we would need to address now, because
I have one question.
Yeah.
In his list, it mentions the east side of the roof. Is that the front of the roof or the back of the building?
Okay, let me
The front.
The front? Okay, the east side is the front? Okay.
Yeah, and you can see it is causing damage, and of course, the longer it's left, the more expensive it will be to fix later. The irrigation system, the spring cleanup, we Scribners will discuss that in our meeting. Please don't let me commando this meeting. If you have other things that you want to say, no, I want to discuss that right now, please holler. The irrigation system, my opinion on this is that we're just not going to use the irrigation system.
David, could you correct the false information okay, actually, David can't see the document.
Oh, okay.
Alice,
Well, I have the document.
could you
Lisa
correct?
actually knows more about that than she actually talked to the people who maintain the irrigation system. That they didn't think the tent stakes had anything to do with it. So there is a question, because nobody's ever shown us a plan of where the piping is. So it's possible that somebody could dig a hole or drive a tent stake. But Tom was under the impression that the latest leak was caused by the tent stakes, and the Guilford Well people said no, it was.
That is what they told me in a conversation last summer, because I specifically asked the guy that.
Right.
From Guilford Well.
Yeah.
When he came in the library.
And I would imagine if we had put a tent stake in the ground and it had punctured one of the pipes, we would have seen that right away.
I think
Right.
Well, probably
Never
not, because
Not
the
right away?
system had been drained for a couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, but
So
at any rate, I think that we Scribners can discuss this later in our meeting on June 8th, but I would say that, as things stand right now, I'm certainly not interested in any bills going up. I think you all pay the water bill. Is that correct?
We pay the water bill for the building. There's a separate meter for the irrigation system, which I believe the town of Ashland pays.
Oh, okay. They
As far
don't
as
need
I
a
know,
bill.
you don't get a water bill, the Scribners, right?
Okay. No, we don't.
Okay, so somebody else is paying that. Yeah.
No, they don't need to pay it then.
Do you have anything like a plan of the system?
No, not that I know of. And I'll talk about that here in just a moment on Alice's, or I shouldn't say Alice's, she sent the email, but on the list that you all sent, which was very good when we discussed that. I have a feeling I know where it is, though.
Good. Then we can avoid it.
Well, maybe, yeah. Once every couple of years. Okay, so I think that this basement, this had me a little concerned about. I'm not doing this. I'll tell you that right now, because I don't know what's down there with asbestos and whatnot. And anyway, so that's going to be something we'll discuss. The stone wall, we are not in the business of spending money right now. We're in the business of trying to figure out how to sunset things. So we'll worry about that later. The cabinet on the historic artifacts, I have keys to that. Just FYI, I've been given a lot of keys. So I don't believe that the town trustees have custody of these artifacts. My understanding is that they were given to the library. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay,
Yes.
we'll deal with that later. The shed. Now, the shed, I put a padlock on the shed. I guess it's been about a week ago. The front door of the shed simply didn't shut. And I noticed it was open, like wide open. And then my neighbor across the street, Bob Sullivan, came over one day and said, "Hey, did you know that the door on the shed at the library is open?" I said, "Yeah, okay." So it has been padlocked. The other door is secured. As far as what we end up doing with the shed, I think that's probably part of more of a long-range plan. Again, not in the market for spending money right now. Shoveling the roof, we'll deal with that over the, as the fall comes. That's a trustee problem. The east side will ice dam. So this is interesting to know. We've got problems with ice damming and stuff on the roof as we look forward to what has to happen to the building.
Same one that leaked?
Yeah, could you look at, perhaps some metal on the lower edges of the roof if you're looking at the roof, the front roof?
Okay. So you put metal on the roof, or the metal is deteriorating on the roof?
I don't think there's any metal.
Okay.
I mean, like some houses have a band of metal at where the icicles would form and things like that, but.
Like a piece of flashing.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I know that some flashing fell off.
Yes.
But did Tom and Rick ever put it back up?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, so as we Scribners are looking at what some of the more immediate needs of the building, clearly the roof portions thereof are an immediate need. And we're already talking somewhere, and these are guesses because we've had no estimates given, but we are guessing somewhere in the $5,000 to $7,000 range for the roof. And that's just based upon experience and roofing that, these are numbers that we, I put out 5,000 at a meeting, and Tom said, "Oh, that sounds about right," a few months ago. So, okay.
The back roof is in good shape. So, I mean, they replaced the shingles there not many years ago.
Right.
So.
Okay. Forget that user fee. We reneged that last meeting. Okay. Okay, there we go. So that's from the Attorney General saying, "Stop taking so much stipend." Okay, let's see. And then the letter that Rick Pray wanted to send back. Okay. So now, having done that, let's look at the letter that, if I can find it, that Alice, from her email that you all put together. Okay. Let's see if I can get this screen.
I have that if you need me to.
Yeah, I've got it. If I can just get my screen share to go there. Oh, I have to stop the share first. I'm a little out of it. This is past my bedtime. Okay. Okay, here we go. Issues for discussion, Scribner Building. You all see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at this. Now, it's not ADA compliant. Okay. Walkway's too steep.
When I looked at this, I kind of rearranged it a bit. So I categorized for safety, for maintenance, and then at that point, we could then go to the next step of prioritizing what would need to be done, and then what to get estimates for how much it would actually cost to get done.
Excellent, excellent. So on your list, then you would put this handicap. Do you have that, Susan? Something that you could screen share with us? Do you have a categorized list you could screen share with us?
Well, it's on my other computer.
Okay. So that's something that
I could probably email it to you right away, but let's see. but yeah, so I just like the handicapped access with splintered railing, the walkway, the not having the E911 number on the building, which is pretty minor actually.
Oh, it is? That scared me.
Well, it's a matter of putting numbers somewhere on the front of the building. It's what I'm saying. It's a minimal cost and effort.
Oh,
to do.
okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
$10
just
bucks.
whether or not in the past the Scribner trustees wouldn't do it and wouldn't allow the library to do it. So it just is one of those things that didn't get done.
That's weird. Okay. Now I changed my glasses so I can see better. Okay. There we go. So let's just go then. We'll just take it as it comes. The handicap access and signage. Okay, it's not an ADA compliant building. I'll tell you right now, speaking for Amanda Loud, it will not be. I'm not going to use what's remaining of the Scribner funds to make it ADA compliant right now. We need, but we will certainly put that in our plan, more of a long range plan.
I think this, in my opinion, this first part is not talking about the entire building. It's talking about access into the building.
Okay, and
the front door obviously is not accessible.
Right.
There is a little sidewalk that goes from Pleasant Street towards the front door. That also leads up to steps at the front door.
Right.
The only door that people with disabilities can get to is that back door.
Right.
Although there are some deficiencies in that, and that's where we mentioned that walkway is steep. In the wintertime, it's not taken care of well. It's narrow. It gets very icy. The water runs down. So even in summertime, someone with a walker going up that walkway, it's not easy.
Right.
Wintertime, it becomes even more difficult. So we were talking, I think, Alice, is that right? We were talking more getting into the building.
Right.
Yeah, the pavement. Yeah, the paved walk.
Yeah.
My understanding is that many years ago, or maybe not that many years ago, the library was able to get a rural libraries grant or something like that to make it more accessible to do some excavating and leveling off, but that was not allowed to be done.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So just listen to the words that I just said, excavating and leveling off. So this is, as we look at this, as we Scribner sit down and look at the needs of the building, this is certainly one thing that will be at the top of our list. It is not ADA compliant, and that will cost a good share of money to do. Whether it means it will cost something. Right. We will have to excavate and level it off a bit. Yep.
Well, there is a town department that does that stuff, the Department of Public Works, who will, work on sidewalks and things like that.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe there's a possibility of seeing where if they could do something. I mean, it's mostly the steepness of the grade, so you're going to have to relocate the walk somehow.
Okay.
So that's the problem.
Sure.
And I don't know how it would look when it was done. We haven't had anybody out there with a level and anything, or see where it would have to run. So
I would think you'd have to get some kind of professional, like, building engineer.
They need to get a civil engineer out there. Yeah, when you're dealing with public buildings, and this is why I did say something about, I'm very concerned. I'm certainly not going to be doing the kinds of hands-on maintenance that Rick and Tom had done in the past, because when you're dealing with a public building, your liability goes up through the roof, and you have to be very careful that that you hire licensed professionals for everything. It's not your home, it's not your house, it's not something you can do.
It's not DIY stuff. That's for sure.
It is not, and it may sound like, oh, I know how to do that. I've got my cousin's got his no, we can't have that happen.
When we were attempting to apply for the grant, and it's a federal program, they offered services from their department to come up with a plan for us for free.
Oh, okay.
We didn't get very far with the process because the previous trustees were not agreeable. But that is an option. Hopefully, still an option.
Well, I think what this is telling me as we move forward to talks, open discussions among us as well as the BOS. And are we being recorded, Mardine? Did you start recording
Yes,
this?
I am recording it.
I just remembered. I am not good at that. At any rate, I think this is something we could definitely bring to the BOS. They do have, as David pointed out, a Department of Public Works. We would need to get some civil engineering plans, I think, at least to be sure. But
I would suggest that all you really need is a surveyor to determine the grade where you can run it. I mean, it's building a 3-foot, 4-foot wide sidewalk is not usually require a highway engineer. So
yeah, but it might require a permit.
Yeah, but a surveyor like Tony Randall could figure
Right,
out what the grade would have to be and where it would run. Yeah, I don't know.
I think that's definitely, as I said, as we look at this stuff, we're going to have to figure out how we can all work together to try to make things work with the least amount being spent.
No, a surveyor does not engineer. A surveyor measures.
Right.
If you look at how complicated the TAP grant is for the sidewalks down the middle of town, things had to be engineered for, again, runoff issues with water, grade. Sometimes when it's a heavy grade, you actually have to have switchbacks. I mean, it is something that somebody would have to look at and give you that professional determination.
And there is a code for the rise and run, the slope of a handicap ramp. That isn't something that you can just get and say, oh, this looks
the main problem. Yeah.
So anyway, we will hit that when we do, but we now know that we, in discussions, with the Board of Selectmen, we will do our homework first and come back. But that's nothing that I'm ready to pay out right now, but certainly something needs to happen. Splintered railing on the back ramp. Is that the handrail?
Yes.
Yes.
The wooden handrail.
It's the wooden railing, at the top is splintering and,
Okay. That could be a probably fairly easy fix, I'm thinking.
Yes.
Might be able to cover with something that would not splinter. I don't know.
Well, sanding and
repainting probably may do it too.
Okay.
For help. Yeah.
Signage that's confusing, Scribner Library, but then Scribner Center. So, okay, I'll go along with that. I'm going to be a real skinflint tonight because I'm just seeing a big picture, but okay.
There never has been a Scribner Library. That was something the former Scribner trustees wanted to call it, but it's always been the Ashland Town Library. So
it's the Scribner Memorial.
So perhaps taking those signs down?
Well, I could take the library sign down. We'd appreciate that. We
Well,
have a library down there.
Again, you said there's one that says Scribner Center and one that says Scribner Library, and maybe those signs just need to be removed.
Yeah, because the will specify that it be called the Scribner Memorial.
So there's no sign for that.
The building itself is the Scribner Memorial Building. Regardless of
I remember one time there was a bronze plaque that says Scribner Memorial.
It's upstairs now. It was taken off when the building was recited, and it sat in the kitchen for, I don't know, God knows how long. And I believe it's upstairs in the Scribner room now. That was locked.
All right. It's a strange place to put it, but
well, it wasn't ours to put back on the building. It was the siding people took it off.
I just want to say that the library trustees and Sarah and the staff made this list, and I think we all are aware of the funds and the length of time that we may be in the building. So, I think definitely there has to be some prioritization, but we just wanted to get this all down on paper, and we understand those financial issues.
Yeah. Now there's no 911 number on the building. I think that needs to be fixed like yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What is the number for the library? What is the address?
41 Main Street.
41.
41.
41 Main Street.
Okay, you know, I'm not a huge do-it-yourselfer for another building. I am on my house, and I'm not bad at drywall, I'd like to add. But I can stick numbers up on that 41. I can go buy a 4 and a 1, and where should they be put?
Probably you
On
should be
the-
right by the
On
front,
the front.
right at the front entrance
Above the front door?
or beside it. Something.
Yeah, 'cause I don't want to do a ladder. Okay.
No.
I mean,
No, not on those granite steps, you don't.
No.
exactly.
No, no.
Exactly. Okay, so I'll stick up a 4 and a 1 sometime this week.
Okay.
That's done.
There's no 4 and 1 on the front of that building already?
Not
I
now.
thought there was, but okay. I don't know.
Fair.
I don't pay that much attention, I guess.
I'll check and we'll make sure that we got 4 and a 1. Okay. Now I know about the windows in the children's room. Sarah gave me a very good tour of the library, inside, outside, and upside down, about a year ago. So I do know what you're talking about. That's something that I would say my vote would be okay. Let's see what our plan is for this building. You know, our big proposal.
That could be a structural issue too.
Yes.
We don't know.
Yeah, I will look at the inspection report.
Well, there's people working on the windows at Town Hall right now. Is it possible to have them at least look at what the problems with these historic wooden building?
They're not historic. They're brand new
No.
vinyl windows.
No, they're-
They're-
They're replacement windows.
Okay, this had me very concerned, the freezing of water pipes in the kitchen during the winter. And also going with that, the toilet that is running or something, so that you had a large water bill last month. Can you tell me about what the water bill situation was? How much bigger?
We don't really know. It just came in for $145, which was like a massive amount. Somehow when the library was closed, we used 1,000 cubic feet of water, according to the meeting, which is
about
normally
10 times what our normal is.
Wow.
We don't know, because when we looked, there was nothing running, and
Yeah.
they came and looked at the meter to make sure it was correct, and the meter shows that 1,000 cubic feet had passed since the last bill. I don't know. Their billing system is a little strange. Of course,
That's bizarre.
the meter itself connects to a transmitter that sends, they pick up the message from that. So if something went wrong, and I don't know. We don't know what happened. We have no idea. Nobody, neither Sarah and I could remember anything leaking or wiring. We don't know.
I've been in and out of the building a few times, maybe like once every 10 days or so. And I have never heard the toilet running or seen anything. However, I have seen and continue to see the sink dripping in the kitchen.
That's deliberate.
Yeah, so things won't freeze.
Well, it is deliberate and it isn't deliberate. I mean, you got to let it drip in the winter so it doesn't freeze. And we keep the cabinet doors open underneath. But if it's no chance of freezing, then you have to really jam the faucet off. The faucet looks like something probably from, I don't know, maybe 1950.
Okay.
I would say. The toilet, one of the things I wanted to say about the toilet, the big issue with the toilet is, well, there's a couple of things. It's a standard household toilet. It's the like, I don't know, the big flush, the big tank. It's not a energy efficient. It's not a high rise. It's not a toilet like when you go into most office type buildings, or
Not a commercial toilet. It's not a
commercial style toilet. It's a home style toilet. And if you get somebody in there and they put a bunch of paper in it, now it's overflowing. And
Sarah's told me, like I said, I had a tour a year ago.
So that toilet is definitely an issue.
Yeah.
But the floor in that room is all humped up, and I can't even begin to even see replacing the toilet with the floor all warped up the way it is.
Right.
Yeah,
Now,
when the toilet overflows, all the water flows through the crack in the floor and goes into the basement.
yeah. So this is my thoughts on this. I was a little concerned about the water bill. And then I was concerned about the sink issue. And I propose that we get a plumber in. And can you all run without the sink in the kitchen working? What if we just drain the sink and the sink in the kitchen didn't work?
The only two places we can get water in that building is in that kitchen sink and in the bathroom. That is the only water access we have.
Okay.
And if you need to fill up, if you needed to fill up something like a bucket or something like that, the kitchen sink would be the only place you could do that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay. Yeah.
Are there visible pipes, and this is a tossing out, might there be visible pipes that could be insulated? Some insulation around them, or put some insulation on the wall behind the sink because there's no insulation inside the wall.
Yeah.
Well, explore whether there are some easy fixes to it.
I think what I'd like to do, as we spend down the money, there's some things, the roof, that I don't think that's going to be very negotiable. Because it's leaking and it's got all kinds of damage because of it. But looking at this water and whatever may or may not have happened with the toilet, we do know the toilet overflows a lot. I'm hesitant maybe to replace the toilet. It could be a possibility. As I look at this, if the town owns the building, and if the town decides to take the building and improve the building, I know that the library does have capital reserve fund. I don't want to do anything right now that will just be torn out, 2 years, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, when something, fixes it. However, I do think it is a good use of the money, a prudent and responsible use of the Scribner Trust, to put something in that would have a lasting value or could be reused or would go forward with such an idea. That having been said, I would like to get a plumber in to, number one, fix the sink in the kitchen. And what does that mean? It means stop it from dripping and insulate it so it doesn't freeze. And then I would like to, and I'm just proposing this, I'm one vote, so my other Scribners can say no, or let's think, I'm not going to do this tomorrow, but, and then have the plumber look at the toilet and find out what are our options for upgrading the toilet. If we upgraded a toilet, a toilet's like buying a new stove. You stick it in any kitchen, you can stick any toilet in any bathroom. Just because you buy a new toilet doesn't mean that if you redo your bathroom in 5 years that you have to get a new toilet. No, we can reuse the toilet. Now, if you start doing new piping in the building, that's when I'm going to say hold your horses. But a fixture like that. So I don't know. What do my other Scribners think? Susan and Lisa, what do you think?
I don't mind. I think that's a good idea to call a plumber and at least get some professional advice on it. As far as maybe, some things that we could even do ourselves would, we could get some foam insulation board and put behind the pipes in there, or wrap the pipes with, the pipe insulation, the foam stuff, that type of thing. I've crawled around pretty heavily underneath that kitchen sink not long ago, actually, because I cleaned out the whole thing underneath there. We've had mice problems in there before, and I've gotten steel wool and put steel wool down in the around the pipes to keep the mice from coming in, and set mice traps down there, and whatever all. Not a fun place to be, that's for
Right.
sure. But I don't, I mean, I think, you know, we have some good plumbers around, and I don't mind doing that. I think that that's something we should look at and find out what the options are for doing something to improve those things.
I would like, of course, before I call anyone on this stuff, I'd like to see the building inspector's report.
Absolutely.
But going forward, I would personally prioritize stopping the leaking sink. And with that water bill that you got, erroneous or not, you may get a water bill that gives you a $100 credit, you know, next month.
That's bizarre,
no,
because
that's
nobody
not
was
gonna
even
happen.
in the building using it. That's what I don't understand.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
I think we still have some investigation to do on that issue.
Yeah, I have 2 points on that in some ways. First of all, with the freezing of the pipes, it becomes obvious when it's right under your sink. Do they freeze actually when they're coming into the building from the basement or elsewhere, which is actually colder, which is where it would first freeze anyway? And number 2, yes, maybe you should be investigating, because last year, some of the water system in Memorial Park sprung a leak. So I would say it's probably a lot of piping that is of the same vintage that failed in the park might have been failing under your building or somewhere along the way, and you are paying for a leak that is continuing.
There is no continuing leak. I mean, they couldn't see, the water flow meter was not moving when they looked at it. So there was no leak. Whenever anybody goes looking for the leak, it wasn't there. There's really no water leaking. So it might be in the monitoring that maybe some of the early, over the winter, we didn't get very large bills. So maybe something, it wasn't recording somehow. I don't know. It's a mystery. Yeah. But it doesn't appear to be any leaks at the present time.
Yeah.
I mean, except from the faucets. Yeah.
Yeah, from the Scribner's perspective, then I think, again, we need to see this building inspector's report, which we should have by our June 8th meeting. But I think I'm kind of hearing a consensus that we're certainly prioritizing, you know, the plumbing, you know, but not, I'm going to be very hesitant to start working on pipe work in that building. But definitely something like upgrading the toilet so it's not overflowing. That's something that, you know, you can continue with if you do something else to the building, and definitely fixing that sink somehow, getting a professional to stop the dripping, and then to get a professional's opinion on the insulation of where the pipe may or may not be freezing, and then we can take it from there.
I had one more question for the library trustees. The water in the building, is there an outside spigot anywhere that is perhaps dripping?
I don't know. Is there, David? Is there any outside faucet?
I'm not aware of one.
No, I don't.
Okay. I wasn't either. I mean,
maybe
like
we ought to look again.
It was just something that, you know, if something happened there over the winter or something, that is a possibility that, you know, maybe that's why it went the way it went. I don't know, but yeah, it might be worth taking a walk around the building and looking to see if there is a dripping outside faucet somewhere.
Right.
There may be one in the front. I'm not sure. But of course, I was never concerned with the outside of the building.
Yeah, no, good. All right, so we can take a look at that and see about that too.
The next, I'd like to combine the stairway sprinkler with the second floor meeting room. Now I understand that the fire department mandated having a sprinkler on that stairway going up. And what was the cost on that? Do you remember?
At the time, which is years ago, we got an estimate from a fellow who was recommended by the fire chief, who was installing a sprinkler system in an apartment house on Main Street. And at that time, if I remember is $1,800, which the Scribner, for the library trustees were willing to pay at the time, but Scribner trustees told us first they weren't going to do it, and then they would do it, and they'd pay for it themselves. And obviously, nothing has ever happened. So
we'll call it $2,000 then. We'll call it 2,000. Now, if this is installed, then legally you can put people up in the meeting room. Is that how that works?
That's what the fire chief said at the time. I would think maybe we want to ask again.
Yeah, I need to I'll contact Chief.
Yeah, I mean, it was sort of a waiving of the regulations, the fact that there was no second egress from the second floor.
Yes.
His waiver was based on there being a sprinkler so that people could get down that one's egress from the second floor to the first floor and get out if there was a fire.
Okay.
Whether that waiver would still stand, it would be his decision, I think. So
it would be.
Yeah, so I'm a little reluctant to say we know that's going to be what will happen.
I would certainly be hesitant to put $2,000 into this with the, knowing that the trust is depleting, so let's just look at it right now. We spend $5,000, maybe $5,000 on the roof. It could be more. Then another $2,000, so we're up to $7,000. We're going to call in a plumber, and miscellaneous, we'll say $500. So we spent $7,500 now. And you know what? We haven't even bought heating oil. So I'm trying to put this kind of in perspective on, we've got $50,000 and it's going to be gone in just a couple of years.
Well, I would, not speaking for the library trustees, personally, if we could get the use of that second floor meeting room for a couple $1,000s, I would support helping with that at least. But that depends on whether we can use that second floor meeting room if it's available to us again. Otherwise, there's not much point. I mean, I go upstairs to do the work of the treasurer stuff, and that's about all that goes up there now, except for Scribner trustees and library personnel.
Now, so this is leading me to another question that I have. Who else uses the Scribner building besides the library? Is there any other Ashland anything that has anything in there?
Yes, the cemetery has stuff in one of the closets up there.
Right.
And the women's club has stuff in one of the closets up there.
Do they come in and use
Yeah.
that, or do they just store?
I don't. The cemetery people, I in all the years I've been there, I've only had one person ever ask me about the cemetery stuff. And there are, from time to time, maybe 2, maybe 3 times a year, someone will come in and want to get stuff upstairs in the women's club closet. Members of the women's club.
Okay.
And they will take whatever they need to take. They'll take it away. They'll work on it, whatever, and then they'll bring it back.
Okay.
Has all that happened pretty much just during library open hours?
Typically, yes.
Typically, yeah.
That I know of. So as far as, I don't think any of those people have keys or anything like that I know of. But I know they do come in and ask, to use things, and a paper punch or a paper cutter or something type of thing. And they'll go and put their stuff on the back table, or sometimes they take it away, and like I said, they'll bring it back at a later date and return it. We don't get involved in that.
Do you know if the Ashland Garden Club has anything there?
I believe that they do.
We stopped meeting in there in 2015.
Yeah, but I think that there's some stuff stored there. I'm just trying to find out, who's got stuff stored up in the library. Just trying to figure out who's in the library.
Well, what's the policy that independent nonprofits use our public facility as their storage areas? Just like the Rebecca's used to use the Booster Club.
Yeah.
So the 3 organizations that we've mentioned, the Garden Club, the Women's Club, and the Cemetery Trustees, only one, the Cemetery Trustees, is a municipal organization, correct?
No, they're not.
It's not.
Oh, it's not
Green Grove.
The Green Grove Cemetery Trustees.
Oh, Oh,
It's
okay.
not.
I got it. I
yeah.
understand. Okay.
But let's be clear that the building was given to be a community center. I have no problem with others using the building. That's not why I'm just asking who the others are.
It's good that we all know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a community building. Now, I'd like to talk again. Let's talk about the second floor room for events and this. So the sprinkler thing. I can talk to Chief Heath about this and revisit this and find out. I want to see the building inspector's report first. But then that would be something, we could consider. We might find out what the new cost is and then come back and discuss this some more. I'm a little hesitant. I understand it would be great to have the second floor. I'm like, oh, let's see what it costs and what the parameters are and stuff. Now, the second floor meeting room, when I went up there as the last trustee standing and went through it, I left and I said, I'm done with everything locked down. This is ridiculous. And left it all open. Just the all open. I left the room open.
Well, can I have a comment on that?
But I'm not done yet. Then I went back and locked everything back up. And it's going to stay locked. Of course, the library isn't even open right now. But it's going to stay locked until I have a quorum of trustees, which hopefully will happen about June 1st. Once I have a quorum, we have, I don't know, records going back to about 1975 up there. I'm not joking. And they should not be there. They need to be at town hall because they are town records. They're not records of Scribner trustees solely. It's mostly trustees of the trust fund, but there are Scribner stuff up there as well. It was the two boards were commingled, which is not correct because they are two distinct boards. So that was kind of illegal. Anyway, so all of that is going to have to be taken out. There's records. Some of the records are going back to the 1930s and 40s. Yeah, in books. I went through it. I spent a while up there the other day. And that's why I think I might be able to find the sprinkler system plan. Oh my gosh, there's everything you could imagine. So at any rate, all of that needs to be put in boxes and needs to be taken over to town hall. And I'm not the one that should do it. I should do it with my quorum of trustees because they're trustee records. So I'm waiting to have a quorum so we can go through all this. And once everything is out of there, I don't think that the capital reserve fund stuff should be in this building. That should be at town hall in the safe. And not in this most community building. So once everything is sanitized, I guess is a good way of putting it, then I know I have absolutely no problem with anyone being in the room because of course the fire sprinkler issue is the problem at that point. But as the room stands right now, it needs to remain locked because it has public records in it. I'm sorry, Susan, did you want to say something?
Yeah, no, I was just going to point out that by law, it's the Board of Selectmen that are technically responsible for all official town records, and it's the town clerk who is supposed to store them properly. So they're not supposed to be in some outlying, if they're in some outlying location, they have to be properly stored as in fireproof and the rest of it to be safely guarded for perpetuity for some of these things.
We've got safely guarded pretty much. I mean, I got it locked up, but it's not in fireproof.
Yeah.
So,
and just a side note, Susan's mention of some things have to be kept in perpetuity. Some of that information is in the 91A chapter as to what records need to be kept for what lengths of time. Some of those issues are listed there.
Okay. So we all know what I'm going to be doing this summer. I'm writing a note about the 91A. There is just an unbelievable amount of records. So the cracked floor tiles by the back door is a safety hazard. I don't want to touch
Are they asbestos?
I don't want asbestos. I don't want to touch doing any kind of work on what do I want to call it, like beautification or something, you know, on the library. Because I don't know. I'm not going to put down a floor. It's ripped out in a few years. I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know. The thing could become a park. That's a possibility. Now it's a remote possibility. I want to make sure it stays real remote. I'm going to do my darndest to try that, to keep it remote. But nonetheless, that's something I'm like, yeah, you know, it's just junk. You know, the building is junk and it's falling apart, and it, you know, I'm not going to argue with it.
Could we throw a carpet in there? I mean, a commercial style store type carpet, you know, if it's just a matter of covering the floor.
Well, there's not going to be any carpet back by the bathroom until I know that toilet isn't going to be overflowing.
It won't overflow that direction.
Oh,
It runs the other way. It runs towards the Legion.
oh. Okay. Well, you know, that might be something that we'll think about. You know, we would think about some kind of
David, did you mean like just like a entry mat type of thing? Like a
No, I think
well, you can buy them. You can buy them any size, and they're made for like a store entryway.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like a rubber backed
Mhm.
entry mat.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, very heavy. It would cover the whole floor probably. You could buy. You can have them custom made, or you could maybe buy it if it's a standard, close to a standard size. You could just buy one like that. And
You just have to be
that's a
careful with
suggestion.
those, because sometimes they don't. Sometimes they slide on the tiles and floor. They don't. They got to have a really good rubbery back on them, or else they're not going to stay in place.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a hazard.
Yeah.
I'm no expert on them, but I just was suggesting that as an alternative
Yep.
to tearing up the floor and laying new tile if you wanted.
I think that might be somewhere that we go. That makes sense to me. Who's going to do maintenance and the emergency contact? Well, we're going to make sure that a licensed professional does the maintenance because of all kinds of liabilities. But I think that we are your contacts.
Okay, if something, for instance, happens with the toilet, we need to call a plumber. That's a couple simple pieces of information like that we need. You all decide if there is a plumbing issue, who do we call first? Do we call you first? Do we call who?
Okay.
In
the past,
the
we have run
Scribners
into
should
a
be
couple problems.
contacted first.
But
yeah,
let us know who you want us to contact first.
Okay, that's reasonable. We'll discuss that at our meeting. I think that that's reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
Storage in basement, attic, 2 meeting room closets. We talked a little bit about that. If the women's club has some stuff there, the cemetery trustees have some stuff there. That garden club may have some stuff. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, well, we're talking about where the library can store stuff, because if you've seen the historic room on the second floor, it's just full of stuff we can't have it. And all the few rooms we do have upstairs are just full. I mean, but we're not allowed to use the basement. We're not allowed to use the attic.
Well, why are you not
use.
allowed to use the basement? Or let's put it in the past tense. Why were you not allowed to use the basement, and why were you not allowed to use the attic?
Control.
Who knows?
So to your knowledge, you didn't know about like the basement floods. You didn't, or you weren't told that the attic had any kind of. The attic may have some leaking problems. I tell you, you stand up on the second floor at the attic door and look up.
Right.
Then I don't know if I want to stick anything in the attic.
Well, it depends. Like old furniture and things like that might be a good place to. Or I want to take the snow shoveling equipment off the back porch where it's just sitting there in public.
Yeah, and put
them in the basement, because we'd have no other place to put them. There's the one closet we have on the first floor is full.
Okay. Yeah. I don't foresee this as a problem. I think that might be I don't know. I'm just putting out there fire safety. I'm going to be talking to Chief Heath anyway about revisiting the sprinkler system, and I can ask him about the storage in the basement. And I can't. The only thing about the attic, and I saw this from the street, the siren for the fire alarm is up in the attic, and it's in a window that stays open 24/7, 365, which means February 3rd, the window's open up in the attic. Now, it's in the attic, but jeepers, I don't think I'd have a window open in my attic on February 3rd.
That's from the old system that I believe it's been disconnected.
And the window's still open?
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So you're saying, Sarah, that alarm is not connected?
That is, yes, my understanding. The bell inside the building next to the alarm rings, but the siren in the window has been disconnected. I believe that was part of the old system that's in the closet downstairs.
And the window's still open.
In the 80s. Yeah, but it's still open.
Rain. It's got the blowing rain. We got the window open. Oh boy. Okay. So
how about an invitation to squirrels?
I don't even know if I want to go up there and shut it now. Gosh, it's like a horror nightmare. Okay.
One of my things I'd like to discuss with the storage in the basement and the attic and the library using that space. As a Scribner trustee, I would have to say that I think I would discourage that just because of the shape of the stair, not the shape of the stairs, but the condition of the stairs on both of those. I believe there are no handrails on either sets of those stairs, unless that, I might be incorrect about that. I don't know, but they're very, very steep and dangerous stairs. So I would have to caution anybody using those stairs to, you know, I have visions of people going head over heels on those, especially if they were lugging things up and down the stairs, taking them and putting them in storage and removing them from storage.
I was thinking more of dead storage than sort of live storage, you know, stuff that would be used constantly. But
so if it's dead storage, why are we storing it?
Well, the snow stuff, I only, you move them once a year, so up and down, things like that. And there is a lot of old furniture now stuck in one room upstairs and a couple rooms upstairs. They're just filling up the room, you know. It's so you would put it away until you had a need for it. That's, I guess, what I was thinking.
I know we took the 2 wing chairs that belonged to the Scribners, and those were put upstairs in the attic, and I believe those have been now destroyed by the squirrels and mice. So basically at this point, they're garbage. I guess that's my point is, you know, what are you storing in the basement and attic that, what is it you need to store that, you know, is it something that we really need to keep?
Well, that's something for the library to decide whether to keep it or not. But
that's true.
I was thinking of some of the furniture that we have excess furniture in some cases.
Right.
So, but you can take a wooden chair upstairs and the squirrels probably won't eat it. So that's the kind of thing I was thinking of.
Well, I'll tell you what, let me talk to Chief Heath about I'm agreeing with Lisa as far as just liability of hauling stuff up, you know, narrow and existing non-conforming stairs. But maybe go down and take a peek with the basement. I have a feeling I want to be looking at the basement, or all of us Scribners are going to be looking at the basement quite a bit with the fuel tank. That will probably be a now and not later issue. So anyway, I don't think we have problems with you guys necessarily storing stuff, although I do agree with Lisa and Susan, you're a vote on this as well about accessing the attic.
Well, even living in a relatively new home that's pretty well built, storing things in the basement, you have to do it correctly, because between either dampness or rodents,
Yeah.
Don't ever store paper there.
Right.
Oh, no, no paper in the basement.
And then the attic presents another problem as again, get that window closed first of all, because you'll have bats and squirrels and
Gosh, I don't even want to go up there. Oh my God. I'm just thinking.
You get the roof leaking.
And you also get even furniture, as you found out, with if it's not rodent damage, extreme temperature changes
Yeah.
That's right.
really destroy
Yeah.
furniture as well.
Yeah. I would say right now, David, you know, if you want to get your snow shovel equipment out off the porch, stick it in the basement.
Good, thank you.
But then let's and then that's it. Okay, let's try to, because I don't think it's a power play. I think it's an issue of saying, you know, I don't want, you know, property destroyed because it's being placed somewhere that's going to compromise it.
Well, and I don't want to see people injure
Hurt.
themselves.
Yeah.
You know,
Holding stuff
well,
doing
back.
this too. I just think it's a liability.
Nobody just says, hey, I'm going to intentionally hurt myself going up these stairs and then I'm going to fall. You know, that just happens. You know, these accidents happen. And I agree with Lisa on that. But you can get your snow stuff and stick it in the basement for now. I don't think that's going to be a problem.
Okay. Well, you should. The Scribner trustees should look at those spaces and see what you think.
Well, I think I'm
Yes.
going to be doing just
Yes.
that. I'm just so thrilled.
Yes. Yes.
Anybody want to come look in the attic with me?
I'll do it.
Yep.
Thank you. I'll let you go in
Yep.
first.
I was up there recently, not too long ago.
I have personally hand caught red squirrels in my time. So
You know, my last house had 800 bats living in the attic, and I'm not joking.
Oh.
There were over 1,000 because they had their babies, and it was
And you got to wait until they get out.
oh, it was the grossest. Oh, anyway, that's another story.
Well, I don't
Yeah,
think
so I know what that's like. It's not good. Okay, so I think we've covered this page. I think we're done with this page. The grounds, we've got trees. And we do have tree problems. I do know about the tree that is dropping branches. If there's concerns about it, it's out there in the front, kind of on the corner. That might be something that when we go to BOS, having open conversations, that we can see if, again, can DPW, you know, take down the tree or something. You know, they did last time, what wasn't really quite what they should have done because it didn't go quite through the right routes. But if we go through the right routes, you know, maybe they can address the tree, because the tree is a problem. It came out at, Tom did research, I think it was at our October meeting or something, September or October meeting last year, that putting the mulch around the trees up too close and too high.
That is bad, piling that up.
Very bad, yeah. So that's why I just skipped and I said something we Scribners will talk about as far as putting down mulch. The tradition has been that the Scribners mulch the library yards, the Scribner yards before the 4th of July parade, so it looks nice. There's not going to be a 4th of July parade this year. Mulch costs money. I am not in the market spending any money, so the first thing I would cross off the list is I'm not buying mulch, but that's just demand allowed, and we have a board to talk about what we want to do for the grounds. But as far as the tree, I think we're all in agreement. You know, we do know that the tree is a problem. It is a potential problem, and it is rotting and dropping branches, and we'll see if we can get some help on that. Now the shed.
And Memorial Park, we got three professional opinions on that maple tree before we took it down. And each one of them, when they do their estimate, they do not charge for the estimate or the advice that they have for what you do with the tree.
Oh, okay. So it sounds, Susan, like, do you know people to call to get some?
Well, certainly Mark Liebert is Tree Solutions, Dallas Rath is Donovan Tree Service, and we had Chippers do it last year, or the year before. So they're always available and they're very helpful with their advice and how they would take it down. You can't just fell it. You need to
Right.
crane it, whatever
Right.
else.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, I've taken down 8 at my house, and it involved a crane. They were huge. Anyway, so Susan, would you mind contacting and getting some estimates and information on that tree?
no problem.
That would be great. Thank you very much. For the shed, like I said, I put a lock on it. Nobody can get in it now. You can wiggle the door. I think the door opens about an inch or so. I mean, but you can't get in it. It's padlocked. If you find yourself needing to get into the shed, I have a key. Then my next
Well-
question is going to be, why do you want in there? Gross. But I
Well,
don't
as
know.
long as nobody's living in it, we're fine.
I know. I heard the
Yeah.
stories. That's why I went and put a padlock on it. So it took me all of 5 minutes. It was just like that. So anyway, well, the shed I think is its own. With the building, we'll figure out. I wouldn't store anything in it. It's not.
I was gonna say, maybe David could store his shovels there.
We could put his shovels there. That's for sure. Do you want to do that, David?
Not really. I prefer the basement.
I think both, and
Pretty sure they won't come to any harm in the basement.
Well,
They'll be safe in the basement.
I didn't go into the shed, even though the door was wide open. I shut the door and got my drill out and started sticking on the hardware. Mercy. We know about the roof, the brick foundation, repointed damaged sections. We're going to see what the building inspector's report says.
Mhm.
I do know about the storm door on the front porch. It does not reach the floor. I have been in there. I've seen snow.
Yep.
Yeah, I understand that. That seems to me to be, I think the problem is it would need to be custom, is my guess. To get
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I
You
don't think so.
reframe. It's easier to reframe than buy a door that fits a certain.
Mhm.
Make the frame to what door you can get, not get a
I
door
think
that
they,
the
I
frame you
think they
have.
put on I think the former Scribner trustees put on a door that they had.
Oh, I
That
see.
door had been shortened.
Okay.
I don't think that door is the correct length. I don't believe that's what is it, 76? Or,
Yeah.
I don't know. Alan Silly's a builder. He knows more about that stuff than I am.
Are you with us, Alan?
Yes, I am,
I'm
but no comment.
sorry.
No comment.
No comment. Okay. I think that would be nice to have the door that does reach to the floor for insulation purposes with, heat loss, which is pretty minimal, but with being a storm door, but it would be nice. I think we'll leave it at the would be nice, and we Scribners can discuss that as we kind of hash out and the threshold for that unused door and the billboard under the door are rotting. What do you mean?
Billboard, it should be, not billboard.
Oh,
That's,
so,
Dave,
oh.
that's what you wrote. What did you mean?
Billboard. I
So-
didn't write this. This is
Okay.
Alice is there.
Probably spell check. Gotcha. Okay. So the threshold for the unused door, what unused door?
In the children's room.
In the children's room.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yes.
Exterior steps. Now the exterior steps to the children's, that's like it's blocked off.
Yes, from the inside, the
Yeah.
door is blocked.
Over by the
Okay.
Legion. Probably
Yeah,
just
the
come
fire-
down.
The
and
fire
be-
chief told us to block that doorway and not to use it as a fire exit. So
Okay.
Yeah.
we actually put a shelving in front of it
Mhm.
since we needed more shelving in there.
Yeah.
So
So this is exterior steps that aren't used.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty low on the
Right.
list. The sill board, sill rotting, that's got me interested. That's something I want to see what the building inspector has.
yeah, take a look at it. It's not in good shape.
Yes, because when you start having sill problems, that's when I'm going to start that's when I'm going to be banging my head on the desk and no longer afraid to go up into the attic. The bathroom back door addition is pulling away from the main building. We'll see what the building inspector says. The front wall of the building is bowing in. We'll see what the building inspector says. That's all giant structural stuff that the 50,000 left in the Scribner Trust just ain't going to cover.
That's right.
There's no security alarm. That's true. There is a fire alarm. Stack area has a sinking floor. I know that. We're going to see what happens with the building inspector's report. My understanding too is that the heating issue in the library is such that there's often frost on the books.
Yes,
on the bottom.
Yep.
Yep.
In the
There
winter.
is.
Do you have any problem with damp? Does
With
it
what?
No.
damp, like water, like things get moisture?
Well, yeah, when they get all frost and then it warms up and then they get kind of weird. Like, I don't know. It's strange.
Damp, like moist or swollen, or I'm just because the one thing when you're dealing with books is moisture is a major enemy. You have to keep. I'm preaching to the choir with Martine and Alice and Lisa looking at me. But I'm just making this point that that's concerning. Again, that's going to be something that will come out, I would think, in the building inspector's report. Handicap access is a problem. I don't know that that's anything that can be readily addressed. Peeling paint on the ceiling in front of the bathroom. Do you think there's some kind of leak somewhere?
I think there was in the past.
There was. Yeah.
But not current.
I haven't seen water leaking in that location, so I'm not sure if the leak has been repaired or the roof has been repaired, but it has been a problem in the past. And the paint on the ceiling is peeling in the same way that the paint on the ceiling at the attic door is peeling.
Ooh, but that paint on the attic door is from a leak in the roof.
Yes, that's why we mentioned it.
So do you know that the age of the existing paint, is that something that I can go in and start sanding down or not?
Inside, I would be careful.
Okay.
It's lead-based paint. We did have a lead management plan written up a few years ago.
That's right, we did.
And Sarah, do you have a copy of that? I don't have. Could you track that down? Did we get a digital copy of it that you could?
I'm not sure we got a digital copy, but there is a paper copy that I'm sure I can just scan and send out. So yes.
That was back in 2015.
That sounds about right.
And that was an interior inspection.
So that was the lead-based paint inspection, Sarah?
Yes.
Yeah. We were having a lot of problems with peeling.
That's right, and I remember that. And so you're gonna forward that off to the Scribner trustees.
Yes.
Okay. Very good.
Who did this lead-based?
My
husband.
Oh, okay.
Well, he didn't. Well, we hired. Alice, I believe Dan looked at it first.
Right.
And then we hired somebody. We hired Mark Elbaum out of, I believe, Meredith.
Yes.
Lead Detection LLC. And he prepared a full report for the interior.
That's right.
Yeah.
Perfect. Because if it's something that can be, easily fixed, I would think that, that and throwing down a mat, over the broken tile there would be an easy, inexpensive, major improvement, but I'm not sanding anything that's got lead in it.
No.
I think the lead is more on the finish, the wooden finish rather than on ceiling.
All the woodwork.
Okay. Now let's look and see what that says.
Yeah,
I think no problem. That's something that the Scribner trustees. I'm not a big do-it-yourself because if it's a public building, but that I think is something if it can be done, it'd be pretty easy to do. Hole in the wall behind the folding chairs. So I know where the folding chairs are. They're in the children's room.
No.
Back
end of the stacks.
Right.
Oh, there's a hole in the wall.
Mm-hmm. Yes, there's a hole in the wall. When the wind would blow, the insulation would blow
Gosh.
and roll around on the floor. So I had placed a wooden board, because it's all I had, up against the hole to block the insulation from blowing in.
How big is this hole?
Oh boy, probably about the size of a piece of paper. It's not.
Like an 8.5 by 11.
Yes.
Okay, so when I was not there when the building inspector went through, I'm just wondering if the building inspector saw the hole, because there's folding chairs in front
Probably not.
of it. Okay.
And the board covers the hole at this point.
So this hole, oh, I
And
saw
it's-
that hole.
and it's
Where
near
did you
the-
see that hole. I saw that hole.
I think,
And it's near the spot. It's near the spot that if you were outside the building, it's very near the spot where there's the hole in the foundation where we put a bunch of stuff in front of that outdoors too, because what was running in there, Sarah? I can't remember. Was it a cat or a squirrel or something?
I think it was a cat. It was rather large.
Yes. Yeah, I can't remember what it was. It was like a year or so ago. And we piled up a bunch of bricks and rocks and boards and stuff in front of the hole in the foundation.
Block it up
And it's very near that same spot, only it's inside the building.
Yes.
Okay, so
when they say you can throw a cat through anywhere, you can throw a cat through anywhere.
I just like to take a moment here at this meeting and point out again, because this is a recorded meeting, that we are talking about the library in the town of Ashland, New Hampshire. We are not talking about an abandoned building on a corner that we are trying to see if we can't get resolved on the tax rolls. We are talking about our town library. Okay. Okie dokie. So the wall is separated. The hole in the building is, I think though, I mean, now that we're done kind of laughing about the ridiculousness of this, I would be concerned about how that is affecting the heating of the building and the oil burn. If you've got a hole. And so I would say that when we Scribners meet to discuss all of this, we might, as Susan has things, categorized far better. One thing we might want to look at is how much will we need to pay a carpenter, to come in and do some, fixes may not be quite the right term, but, great big Band-Aids. Oh boy. There goes the money. Where were we at now? 10,000? Okay. Wall separated under window in stacks where air conditioner is placed. The wall from the window? You mean it's separated the framing of the window?
I think it's probably horsehair plaster held together by the wallpaper, but you could put your hand through it if you wanted to.
So the surface is a little punchy.
Like we may have somewhere. I'm going to, knowing that things are always more expensive than you think they are going to be, $2,000 to $3,000 worth of miscellaneous carpentry that may need to happen, maybe sooner than later, just for the
I think it's more than that, because I think it's clearly, this is all structural to me. It just sounds like the whole foundation.
Well, exactly. I'm talking about where we can put some Band-Aids, like fixing the hole behind the folding chairs. I'm not touching anything that's got sill in the sentence.
Well,
that's going to be, whoa. And they take the building inspector's report, but this is some stuff that may or may not have been seen by the building inspector, because things are in place to keep the insulation from blowing in.
Mm-hmm.
A memorandum of understanding between the trustee boards and a liaison from one board to the other. What kind of MOU are you interested in?
We haven't really discussed it, but it would be nice to have an agreement on various issues. So.
Okay. Well, where I'd like this to head, and I want to just thank you all, not only for coming to this meeting, but also, and for listening to me rant on, but also to make this wonderful list, which has been very helpful. Like I said, we Scribners are looking at the balance of the trust, and we also are looking at cutting expenses to make the trust last longer, to bleed it out, as slowly as we can. How much longer can this trust last? I don't know. There's a significant chance, and I don't think that it is is a small one, that the thing could be gone by Christmas. I don't know what's going to happen in the market in the next 6 months. I don't know. Now, one thing that the trustees, we Scribners, are thinking of is how can we safeguard this money? You know, if you're not in the market, well, your money's not going to go down. But if you're not in the market, well, your money's not going to go up either. So we're going to be looking at our expenses. We're going to be looking at ways to safeguard the money as best we can, to bleed it out as slowly as we can, knowing that once it's gone, and to have a plan. I say long range, but the emphasis is really more on plan, because I think it can't be any longer than 3 years. To bleed out this slowly, to work with the Board of Selectmen and you library trustees, to figure out what we're going to do about this building now. We've got a building that the Scribner Trust cannot support. Mm-hmm. Now, the argument is, you know, it'll go back up. Well, in theory, yeah, it will if you don't touch it. And well, how long will it take to go back up? I don't know. When it was at 106,000, I did the math to find out how long would it take if we never touched the money, just left it, didn't spend a dime, and let it grow. How long would we have to let it grow, knowing some years are up, some years are down, some years are up, some years are down? So I did the math on that, and I came up with 22 years. When it was 106,000, if we left it alone for 22 years, it would come up to $300,000. And at $300,000, you can withdraw 3%, $9,000. And that has historically been the maintenance, or what has been spent. That included stipends and other stuff. But they're spending $9,000 a year for decades. Now, $9,000 in 22 years from now is not going to be $9,000 this year. I understand all of that. But that was just the simple math. So we're not in a position not to spend the money. Now that it's down to 90,000, I can tell you it's longer than 22 years. I'm going to guess it's probably somewhere around, 25 years. So we're going to have to figure out what we're going to spend money on and what's going to happen to this building when the trust is gone. It will go down. If we just addressed a few of these things that are the most pressing, things like roof and leaking and stuff like that, we're already spent about $10,000 conservatively. That's probably not even going to cover it. And now we haven't, like I said, even bought the heating oil, and that's only for the year 2020. And if it's 90,000, now we're down to 80,000, then we're going to spend probably another 6,000 or 7,000. So now we're down to 72,000. And now we don't know if the market's going to go up or down. So it's going to hit that 40,005 much more quickly than I think anybody really realizes. The building does need a great deal of work structurally to be safe. And it's a library. This isn't somebody's, hunting shack, that they only are in seasonally. This is a year-round building that has, a load, a significant, human load inside that has to conform to laws, commercial laws. Absolutely. So anyway, I don't know what to tell you after that. A memorandum of understanding, I think, is that we're just going to have to understand we're going to have to work together on this. The next thing that the Scribners do will be to come up with a plan that will have, what we feel that we can afford to fix now, what we feel the town might be able to fix, may not. Nobody's got any money now. Things are bad all over. And our plan of what some possibilities are for what we can do in the next few years, few emphasized, as this trust completes, so we don't get a park. I don't want a park. Once something goes into a park, it's off the tax map. As long as we keep it as a building, then we have it on the tax map. Now I know we're not paying taxes on it, but you can't sell a park. It's done. But if you keep it a building, and I'm not saying to go sell the building, but I'm just saying, if you maintain the integrity of having a building, then you maintain it on a tax map. And unfortunately, we live in New Hampshire, and that's all we've got is that tax. So that's something to take up with Concord, not with me. Any other questions? Does anybody have any questions or comments before we close?
Well, again, with this memorandum of understanding, I think the library trustees also have to make the decision, having explored looking at other buildings to move to, or what it would actually cost to build new somewhere in Ashland. If they're going to remain in this building, are some of their capital reserves now going to be part of the funding available to take care of this building as the library? So I think that's one of the questions that has to be addressed as to where we're going with this, what we're saving this building for. If the library really needs to move out of it, then what other use would it be? And so what would the town be doing with it? And what would the Scribner trustees have to do to go to court to, first of all, say it was no longer a library, and second of all, to say that the will and its funds have run their course and they're no longer viable. And then you have to go back to court to dismiss the will, basically, and rename what the whole thing is and who is in charge and what happens to it.
I think clearly the Board of Selectmen have to be a huge part of this conversation, because
they own the building. The town owns the building.
The town owns the building. It's up to them to provide a library. It's, you know, I mean, all these decisions need to take place. Could we build on the property? That wasn't an option with previous boards. I think it could happen. But again, the cost of that would be as much or more, much more than the old school.
Well, I think, again, we Scribners we are the managers of the property. We're going to meet, and we're going to, like I said, come up with, and we're not going to come up with this thing tomorrow. You know, I think the fall, I think September or October would, maybe earlier, but I would say September, October would be a reasonable time frame for us to come together and put together a proposal. And again, it's not something written in stone. We're just going to lay the first card in the game. And we would all meet, the trustees, library, Scribner, and Board of Selectmen, to look at our proposal, which will encompass everything that we know needs to be done on the building, all the prices, the current state of the trust, what we feel we can, how long we feel we can make it last doing X, Y, and Z, as well as knowing that the library does have a capital reserve fund. You know, we're going to be aware of everything, and we're going to put out a proposal and lay the first card, and then the discussion can begin.
Yeah, because I'm going to say my experience with the Board of Selectmen for the time I've been involved for over a decade is you have to do your homework. You have to present them with something to work with. If you go and say, what do you think? We're never going to get anywhere.
I don't know. What do you think?
You have to at least have tried to think of all the options and as much information for that whole thing. Just thinking of the process of what to do with the mill property. That went on for what? Decades of foot dragging and what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And at least if one committee did all the homework to put something before them to say, this is what you can do, these are the grants that are available, this is what we've put before you, then at least some things did get moved forward.
I would like to see at some point, maybe first the library trustees and the Scribner trustees do some very basic brainstorming as to what are the possibilities that can be attained with that property and the building to satisfy everything that needs to be satisfied. But I can see doing some real brainstorming and just toss out all kinds of ideas to get, and because I think we need a little bit of, all of us have to deal with all these little issues that there are with the existing building and how it impacts programs. But at the same time, maybe for a little while, we could put all those nitty gritty some very tough issues to deal with, set those aside a little bit and really do some creative brainstorming.
It sounds to me like that would be an excellent thing just for the library trustees to do. You're in the building, you know the programming that you want to try to do and that you can't do because of the way things are. And it sounds to me that that would be, you know, we're all three, you know, Board of Selectmen, they're doing their thing, and the Scribners are going to do their thing. And I think that would be a great thing for the library trustees to do. And the Scribners are looking at this from a financial standpoint. We're not looking at it from what the library can and can't do because they don't have X, Y, and Z. Honestly, I don't care. I care about the dripping sink. I care about, you know, knowing that there's a gap between the window and the wall and there's a hole in the wall. I'm like, oh my gosh.
But if we, the library trustees, were to start that brainstorming process,
yes,
as to creative ideas with this particular building and property,
yes,
the next step would have to be continuing that brainstorming with the Scribner trustees.
Yes,
those two have got to come together on some ideas before it goes to that third level.
And keeping in mind the capital reserve and the Scribner funds and the possibility of grants or other funding.
And
yeah, I think that's an excellent idea.
So I think when that brainstorming happens, those are the things that, you know, it's nice to have the, you know, the nice big ideas and all of that, but we also have to keep in mind that we're very low budget here.
Yeah.
But that's why if the first step were, say, the library trustees, second step, library trustees with the Scribner trustees.
Yes.
Third step, the library, the Scribner, and the select board. Fourth step, you've got, and maybe even earlier than that, getting the community involved.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. I think that as things stand now, like I said, our next Scribner meeting is June 8th. And that's, we will begin to, hopefully, maybe Susan will have some estimates by then. Hopefully we'll have copies of the building inspector's report, which could change our look on everything. I don't know. I'm going to hope to have the numbers 4-1 somewhere on that building this week. I can do that. I'm just looking at my notes here. We'll talk on the 8th about the toilet and the sink, based upon the building inspector's report, you know, and the sprinkler system. I want to see that building inspector's report first, but I can talk to Chief Heath. I'm just looking at my notes. And we can we Scribners can begin to go from there. I think there's going to need to be some independent working, Mardine, between the two boards, you know, before we get together again. Like I said, this is not an adversarial relationship, you know, and we're trying very hard to keep the building for use. I think Ashland benefits from having a library. I'm not trying to shut down the library. I am looking, though, at my position, which is one of the building. And what's the problem? What's it going to cost? How much money do we have left? What's this going to cost the taxpayer when it's gone? So we're going to be crunching the numbers and looking at some of the immediate health safety issues from liability. And then you trustees look at what the building can and cannot do. And we'll come together and talk again in probably a couple of months, you know, and show you our draft, you know, of where we are, and you can show us your draft, and maybe together we can work up something that mingles the both better. Does that sound reasonable?
Sure. I mean, I think we've done a lot of this work because we've been trying to get a new library for many, many years.
Yeah.
So, you know, we know what our program is and what we need. You know, there's a lot of variables. Staying in this building is going to take hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more, which, you know, we know the Scribner Trust does not have.
Nope.
How do we make it work? It's a tough issue.
Yeah.
There's not an easy answer.
Right.
And I think we've all got our tax bills this week, and I don't think the taxpayers are going to come forward with a whole lot of money for us in the future coming up real soon with the way the tax bills are right now.
There's already been talk in other towns. I have friends, believe it or not, I have friends, all my friends are not in Ashland. Talk in other towns that's already towns that have very low tax rates and a lot of wealthy properties. And they're already concerned about not getting the revenues coming in because people don't have the money to pay their tax bill now.
Mm.
So, so this, I guess you could say, you know, really couldn't have happened at a worse time. So anyway, we're not your enemy. We're trying very hard to work with what we've got left, and we're going to try very hard to address issues that we're going to see from our standpoint as being very critical. So you guys need to do the same, I think, and give us a couple of months to digest stuff. You know, I don't even have a quorum yet of trustees. I did call about the phone bill, and boy, it was a very interesting story. They were like, wow, we've never heard that one before on why you can't pay your bill. But apparently they're not going to turn off the phone. And so I've got that notes written in on the account. But it's going to take some doing. We have a lot of things to think about, but beyond the hole in the wall, on what we're going to do with the Scribner trial.
Well, we certainly appreciate, you know, being invited to a Scribner trustee meeting and being able to discuss all of these things.
Oh, well, no, you're always invited to the Scribner meetings. The meetings are always public, and yeah, so a lot of things are different now for a lot of good reasons.
Right.
We appreciate that.
Very much.
Well, I appreciated hearing from you, the library trustees, with this report. And like Amanda said, I'm looking forward to seeing what the building inspector has to say. Yeah. And I would also like to just publicly thank Tom Peters for the letter with the instructions and the detail that he did give to the incoming Scribner board. And I felt that was very decent and very helpful.
It was very helpful. Very, very helpful.
Yes.
So,
I second. I do
thank them for their, thank all of them, Rick and Peter, Tom Peters, Rick Perret, and Dick Ogden and Mark Ober for all their service to the community. And you know, it's not an easy place to be, and I think it's going to be a good change, and we'll work through this.
Yeah. And yeah, going forward, we're just going to go forward and see how things go. I should have a quorum soon, and once I get a quorum, then of course we can start talking more about what we're going to do with the money, because we Scribners, the three of us, can decide what we want to do with the money, but I got to have another.
And when will you know all that?
Hopefully on June 1st. June 1st is the deadline for people to volunteer to fulfill the 2 roles until March. And the Board of Selectmen should make their decision on June 1st at their next meeting, a week from today. And then I have to wait 48 hours before I can hold a trustee of the trust funds meeting. So then June 3rd, I can hold a trustee of the trust funds meeting. And then I will have the minutes from that meeting to prove that we're all trustees. And then the BOS will have, I need at least 6 copies with wet signatures, just because I have to contact all these different investment houses across the United States where some of the other trusts are. And then we can start processing the paperwork. So I think I'll be able to pay the phone bill by June 15th, I decided.
Okay. So there are applicants, people are applying for this?
That's what I have heard.
Good. Excellent.
That's what I have heard. I only need 1 more. Ideally, there would be 3 of us. 2 is a quorum.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
May I make a couple of comments?
Yes.
Just so you'll know, I was present during the building department's inspection of the library. They didn't miss a thing.
Oh, good.
Okay. That report is available to you. I'm surprised that you don't have it.
I've asked, I sent an email to you. Actually, you were on the email, Alan, with all the Board of Selectmen. I CC'd Charlie, and I said, my understanding is that I would receive this, and I have not yet received it with my meeting coming. I sent that out on Friday.
I believe that has to be released. Don't they have to vote? Don't the select board have to vote on that? And
it's a report to the select board, so I'm sure
that is
I think they have to release it to us.
Right, and I know I wasn't going to really go there, but I was just trying to tell you that report is done.
Okay.
And they did not miss a thing. There are 60-something issues, deficiencies, however you want to put it.
Okay. Wow. There's more than the hole in the wall.
And with pictures.
Oh, great. Okay.
Very good.
Now,
thank you for being present for that, Helen.
Well, I did not plan on it. It just was a quirk of fate, believe it or not.
Well, sometimes that's the best.
Anyway, just so you'll know too, I mean, I know that it's kind of out there, but not out there. But do not expect any comings and goings with the building department, as we no longer have one at the moment.
Right.
So I'm not saying that that's a good or bad thing, but obviously any information will be coming from Charlie or the BOS.
Okay.
I wasn't sure if you really, I hate to assume that you knew that, but
I'm lost as to what you just said. We don't have a what anymore?
The building inspector, the two building inspectors are no longer with the town.
Right.
Oh, I thought they were new. I thought they just started.
Just leave it at that. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I don't need to know anymore. Okay. So there's no building inspectors currently.
The important thing is that we have our building inspection report. So
yes, that's important.
That's what's important. Okay.
One
Great.
last comment. Mm-hmm. I applaud all of you for getting together like you have tonight. It's going to go a long way in resolving a lot of things.
Well, thank you.
Well, we hope so.
I think that's an excellent way to end our meeting tonight, actually. Does anyone else have, if Susan has a more excellent, yes?
No. Can we schedule a visit? I'd like to be able to view the attic and the basement and all the other concerns we have been talking about. I've been in the library a number of times, but I have not been poking around behind folding chairs and whatnot.
Sure.
I would be glad to give you a tour. When would you be available?
Well, I have an appointment in Exeter tomorrow, but I am pretty free for most of my time.
Okay, I have an appointment with my mother on Wednesday, so Thursday or Friday, I think I could do that.
Can I say something, just a caution?
Certainly.
And maybe this is where Sarah should chime in.
Yes.
We are working on a transition plan for library usage, which does not open it up to the public yet. So if someone needs to come in to visit, maybe Sarah should be the one to clear what process she wants used to protect and keep that area safe. So maybe check with Sarah on that.
I agree with that.
Okay, or we can just communicate so that we're not all accidentally in the building at the same time.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
I'm also thinking that once we do have a copy of this building inspector's report, I have a feeling that the Scribners and probably, you at the library trustees as well, are going to want to go see, despite I'm sure it's picture 60 things, with pictures, but it will, it still might be helpful. I just have a feeling, I know I'm going to want to go in and look at this stuff, probably. Mm-hmm. But I'm not discouraging you, Susan, for going in right now. I think it's very, very helpful to see this.
It's not just, but if we're going to brainstorm, I'm one of these people who I can walk into a space and kind of rearrange in my head or look at possibilities or really get the lay of the actual building and every little nook and cranny and So to be able to brainstorm about a few things, I'd like to be able to have physically stood in the space.
Sure. Yeah. So you work that out, Susan, to get your tour.
Okay.
I know that, well, I have a feeling that going forward, we're going to be going in that building a lot. It's not going to be just a one tour and remember seeing it. We're going to be in there a lot looking at this.
We'll make sure to let you know when the employees are going to be there. There's going to be limited hours, but there will be employees in there. And so
Yeah.
we need to, make sure.
We'll coordinate. We'll talk. We're talking. So I'm not going to be
Right.
something secret thing. The only thing that could happen is I might go up if I have to get into Scribner records, trustee records, because they're up in there in the locked room, but every time I've been up around, nobody's been around. I could tell there's no cars there, and I just go up and get what I need. So, okay. Anybody else have any questions, comments? Okay, our next meeting then will be June 8th for the Scribners, and we've got a lot to talk about.
All right.
Have a nice evening. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.